Sounds like a metronome.
It is the metronome song.
Oh, that's funny.
All right, hello.
Hello.
Hi, Chris. What's up?
Hi.
You sound different.
I do.
Oh.
Was it just my hi?
No, not you. This audio recording sounds
Oh.
different. It sounds like a lower quality than what Tal Slopes is used to bringing the listeners.
What low?
Well, that's because we are in a very,
Echoey room.
well, in a different situation, different recording scenario here. We are actually coming at you live from Woodburn Library
Yay.
in Washington Township, Dayton, Ohio.
Ohio.
And we're in one of their quiet, quote-unquote, quiet rooms.
I know, as it hums in the
Kind of has
background.
an annoying buzz. If y'all can hear that, we're sorry. Audio quality is very important.
Yes.
In podcasting particularly.
Yeah.
However, we have decided just to do one here on a whim, and the particular space that we are in,
This is the best it's going
this
to
is
get.
what you get. Exactly. So if you can't deal with it, we understand.
Quality over...
Turn this off, but...
Wait, how do I say this? Content over quality. That's what I was trying to say.
I was just about to say that. I was like, the content you are not going to want to miss.
Yeah.
At all, because this is to both me and Chris and I. Chris and me? English is hard.
Chris and me, I think. I don't know.
It's me, yeah.
Yeah.
To me and Chris, but really it's Chris and me. This is important because people are important.
Yes.
People matter. As John Hammond from Jurassic Park says, people are dying.
Yes.
I love that movie. And that's a great line.
You want to know a fun little fact about me?
I do.
I have never seen Jurassic Park. Any of them.
I have it on VHS. I'll lend it to you.
That would be... I have nothing to play VHS on now, but...
I should have considered that before I offered.
Yeah, I have, nothing.
Right.
I had to get an external CD player to watch DVDs on my computer.
Oh.
Because now they don't even have the little drive thing.
Well, I bet you there's a copy here at the library that you can pick up on the way out. Yeah. So, anyways, we're doing this very impromptu episode because we happened upon something that we mentioned this earlier. We think is just too important to not talk about and not present to you all. And really, I say this all the time, but to record a take, to document a take. That's what I want to do. So what is it? What is it? What is this? Oh. It's the internet.
Wow.
So, I don't know if you all know this, but Chris and I tend to use the internet from time to time.
What do you know about that?
Well, I know about Instagram. Yes. Instagram. We have talked about this individual before. This is from Matt Bernstein's Instagram page. If you don't know who Matt is, we will link to his personal Instagram accounts. Love the work that he does in regards to particularly the queer community. But Matt had posted a couple days ago, 2 days ago, it says here, a post. He posted a post. Yes, he did.
It's like a compilation of, it looks like what you would see from Twitter or any other kind of...
It's called X, Chris.
Sorry, I forgot about that.
Elon would be very upset.
Sorry, Elon. X, of people talking about how some people seem to think that trans kids are becoming a fad at schools.
It's just made up. It's
made up. And then each slide of this Instagram post has the main thread of someone saying that, trans kids, it says, fellow millennials, how many trans kids did you go to school with? There you go. It's a social contagion, a fad, and it's causing lifelong harm to confused, vulnerable youth. So that's the beginning of each slide, and then there's someone responding to it.
Yes, so each slide is a response.
Yes.
The person that posted this, they're verified, by the way, which only means that they paid, $8 a month to have the blue check. So literally anybody can do that. It just verifies that you are giving Elon money. Doesn't mean that you have anything good to say or that you should necessarily even be running your mouth. But this individual who posted what Chris just read, their name is Rob. Mm-hmm. And their @ is red-pilled homo, so...
I know, I was like, what?
Y'all get to figure that out.
I just noticed that. That's kind of funny. Anyway.
But again, like, what Rob is basically saying is that, like, okay, millennials, really, how many trans kids did you actually go to school with?
They're really trying to say that trans kids never existed in the past, and now that it's more popular on social media, more kids are trans, and saying they're trans even though they're not.
And this is a popular argument we hear from conservatives.
All the time.
Is that it's just made up in the sense that
it's either a fad, or it didn't exist in the past,
yes.
or it's just popular now. Same thing as fad, I guess. But
it's very dismissive of the authentic experience that trans and non-binary people like yourself are experiencing. And I hate that. I hate so very much that somebody would be just so very dismissive because your experience is not their experience.
Right.
And there it is. That's it. That's all that needs to be said. And then again, there's the visibility notion here that, well, I didn't see this in my high school, so therefore that must mean X.
I mean, but you
Not
just
like
said it.
the platform, but
you just said it, the visibility.
Right, yes.
Like,
that's what this is all about.
Just because something's not visible to you doesn't mean it wasn't there.
And that's what Matt's trying to prove in this post. And so we want to read each of these responses and maybe some of the comments if we get there.
Yeah.
And let you all decide for yourselves. Because ultimately, that's all that matters. It doesn't matter what we think. What do you think, given what is being presented here? So let's just dive right into the first comment here, and I'll go ahead and read these, Chris, and then I just kind of want to hear what you have to say about them.
Alrighty.
So again, in response to Rob's whole how many trans kids do you go to school with, the first person that responded, or at least on the slide here, is Brandy Bryant at Ink Masturbator. Don't know what that means, but
I don't know, it's fine.
It sounds pretty special.
It sounds like a tattoo artist.
Brandy said, millennial here. I tried socially transitioning at 14 in 1999, with the 1900s, and was nearly beat to death for it, left with a broken nose and a hospital stay. It didn't stop me from eventually transitioning, but I hope this helped answer your asinine question.
Right. I think the thing that gets me on this one is that eventually transitioning. So it existed. And by it, I mean the concept of wanting to transition and the thought process. And Brandy had wanted to at 14 years old, but it wasn't okay. But did it change Bryant's mind? Wow, I said Bryant. I said the last name. Brandy's mind? No, it just delayed the inevitable.
I would also say here is somebody that has transitioned, I guess, I'm assuming, from...
Yeah, there's a trans flag by Brandy's name, and I'm assuming, well, I'm hoping for their sake, and I'm using they them pronouns because I'm not sure what their pronouns are, but I'm hoping that they got to transition.
They say, I tried socially transitioning at 14 in 1999, so that's been a while. Must have been a phase, right, Chris?
Oh, just a phase, even though 1999 was what, like 26 years ago?
Been a while, yeah.
Almost 25.
Oh, that's scary.
25.
That was a scary thought. This isn't a phase.
No.
And real quick, one of the things that I think a lot of people might mention, a 14-year-old wants to transition. Well, I know a lot of conservatives that are very dismissive of that, like, oh, you'll just get over that. And, to be fair, some maybe they do. Because, again, we've talked about over and over again, gender, sexuality, orientation, all that stuff can be fluid. It can be.
Yeah.
It wasn't for me.
Yeah, that's fair.
Was it for you?
No, not really.
You had to work through a lot of stuff.
But
yeah, exactly. But at 14, like, you may not know a ton about the world, but you have a good sense about what's going on inside of you, even if you can't understand like why or articulate any of the nuance there. I mean, you just say what is going on. And Brandy said, well, I wanted to socially transition at 14. This is something that has stuck around for over 2 decades. Yeah. This isn't going away.
And real quick, before we move on to the next one, there always seems to be some kind of identity or sexuality or gender that is claimed to be a fad. I remember a few years ago, a big thing was bisexuality, and people were like, oh, being bi is a fad, and that's not actually real, and you're just confused. And there still seems to be a lot of biphobia and misinformation within even the queer community. But my point is, there seems to always be something where people are like, no, that's just a phase. That's just a fad. You're just wrong. You're just confused.
The other thing I want to point out about this, before we move on to the next one, is Brandy wanted to socially transition at 14 in 99. And what was the consequence?
Broken nose.
It wasn't. People were just like, oh, let's be curious about that and engage with you in a good faith manner. It was, let's beat you.
I think that's really
Violence.
important to know. Like, as much as people don't want to admit it, within the past couple of decades, things have become less physically violent a lot of times, at least out in the open, and more verbally and socially violent in a lot of ways. Like, not always, obviously.
Right.
But in my mind, like, oh, this individual was put in the hospital because of this.
Yeah.
Very, like, automatic, you do something we don't like, we're gonna hurt you physically. And now I feel like because it's more socially acceptable and people are like, hey, you can't beat up random people, it's less common to see this kind of extreme result. It does happen, obviously. There's all sorts of news stories, but it doesn't happen as much, I feel like, or at least you don't hear about it as much because it's known to be more wrong.
We have grown a bit.
That's
We
barely.
We have a long ways to go. I guess the last thing I want to say about this is, if you are in Brandy's shoes back at 14 and 99 and you see this happening to Brandy, does that encourage you to socially transition?
No. I guess that's what I'm trying to get at, is that it wasn't as socially acceptable a little bit ago, so people were more afraid to come out because of results they were seeing of people, the very few who would try to come out.
Which is, I think, what Brandy's answering Rob here is like, oh, how many did you go to school with? Well, what Brandy is saying is, we've always existed. It's just that you would beat the crap out of us if we came forward. So there's a motivating factor there for people to stay closeted, no matter what that means in that particular
and
climate.
For anyone who's not a part of the queer community, there is a conversation that essentially everyone, if not everyone, knows, and that's, even if you want to come out, if you're not safe to come out, wait, because it's better to be safe than to jeopardize your life. And thankfully, it's a lot safer for more individuals to come out, but it always hasn't been that way. And if people do not have the ability to safely come out and not risk their health in some manner, then they're not going to come out. End of story.
Yep. All right, let's go to the next one here. This is Victor at Havoc.
Oh, I love that. Havoc.
Victor says, in response to Rob, hi, millennial here. I don't know why I read it like that. I tried to come out as trans independently at 13. Again, here we have another millennial, 13 years old. And my mother had me involuntarily committed. She sounds awesome. I was subjected to medical torture until I lied about, quote unquote, being better so that they would release me. That's the story.
That's really sad. I'm very grateful that I have not been sent to any kind of medical institution that does conversion therapy or some kind of mental health care in regards to sexuality or gender. But I do know friends who are my age, a little older, who have been sent to conversion camps, stuff like that, have been sent to mental hospitals and told that they need to fix things until they have to lie just to get out. It happens, and it's terrifying.
Fortunately, those facilities are sponsored by Jesus Christ himself, so it's all good.
That makes it all better.
It's all good. Yeah, again, things I point out here, I already mentioned, trying to come out at 13. So, again, not a phase, not a fad here. The mom, again, sounds like a conservative individual. I'm going to take matters into my own hands. But what was the material result? Victor says I was subjected to medical torture to the point where they had to just tell a lie. Christians, is lying good?
But at the same time, if you think someone lying and hurting themselves and others by lying is better than just being your authentic self, that's a problem. Please address that.
Can you all not see just how fundamentally problematic this scenario is? Where somebody has to lie just to be safe.
Yeah.
It sounds like Rahab hiding the spies, the Israelite spies.
Oh, that's funny.
She lied, but it was credited to her as faith, according to Hebrews.
And she was in the genealogy of Jesus, right?
Yeah. In this case, this person had to deny their true identity just for safety. Once again, and this harkens back to the first post that we saw, there are very strong motivating factors for people to stay closeted, to keep quiet, and to maintain the status quo, leaving the ignorant of us out there to then interpret that as, oh, well, there are no gay or trans people.
No, you're just blind.
Yeah, and that's the fact, and that's what this post is getting at. Okay, let's go to the next one, unless you have anything else you want to add.
No, let's keep going.
Keep rolling.
That was beautiful.
This individual is Just Izzy, and I like Just Izzy's emojis.
Me too.
That they've included here. There's a pride, there's a trans flag.
Some dinos.
There's some dinosaurs.
I love that.
Yes, I love the dinosaurs. Jurassic Park. This is the second time we brought up Jurassic Park.
Yeah, you really want to rewatch that, don't you?
It's good. Just Izzy says, this is at Izzy Kamikaze. I'm 61, so maybe not a millennial. But anyways, I'm still counts. You know what? I will allow it.
I'll allow it.
I will allow it. I'm 61. But this is good because it's going to give us actually a little bit more understanding outside of the millennial generation. So even before generation, I guess what, 61 is X?
I don't know.
Gen X.
Regardless, either way, it proves that even before millennials, this was a thing,
Izzy says, nobody in my school came out as gay. So this is not even necessarily talking about the trans thing. I think you mentioned this in an earlier episode, being gay is more acceptable than being trans is.
Yes.
At this point.
And I think honestly a lot of it is that I think that being gay for a lot of people is more palatable than being trans. Because if someone is gay, they don't necessarily have to deal with a partner or relationships every day. But if someone is trans or non-binary and their identity is fundamentally different every day than how these other conservatives are perceiving that individual, then they have an issue with it.
So what Izzy is talking about here is something that is less, I guess, offensive to maybe Rob, red-pilled homo. Okay, anyways, get back. Izzy says, I'm 61. Nobody in my school came out as gay while we were in school. Does that mean we didn't exist? When we came out a few years later, after we found other gay people, was that social contagion? That's certainly what our parents thought. They were wrong, and so is Rob.
And that's kind of to my point earlier, where there seems to always be something that's considered a fad or a social contagion. And, as we just said, that being gay is more palatable. People have kind of come to terms with being gay is not a phase, at least for the most part, I hope. But now it's gone on to the trans and non-binary community. Okay. Yeah,
it's just ignorance and lack of education. I mean, that's really all it is. Let's keep it going. Anemone. The next post is from Anemone and at Evo Exo.
Well, that's a fun name. Eco Exo. Oh, I can't say it.
Why is my at just J Janetzko? I'm so lame.
Basic.
Anemone says, I first tried to come out in 1996, was punished into silence. Ooh. In 2005, I tried to come out and was told trans lesbians didn't exist and ignored. In 2006, I came out in secret to a friend. In 2013, I publicly transitioned. In 2024, I still see people saying this is new and a social contagion.
Yeah.
So again, always existed. People just they don't know because they don't experience it, and they're not curious enough to think beyond their own personal experience.
And there was a comment that I want to mention right now I saw
Love it.
that said, if you did not see any gay or trans people in school growing up, it's probably because you were not a safe person and no one felt like they could come to you about it. Like this individual, Anemone, says that I came out in secret to a friend in 2006. That's the reality. Like, you come out to your closest friends first because it's safe. You have to come out to safe people.
Yeah.
So if you don't know about anyone who's gay or trans, maybe you weren't a safe person.
Yeah, I mean, I hope the listeners, all y'all, are kind of sensing some trends.
I hope so.
In each of these replies. The next one is from Steve Boots.
There you go, Steve Boots is the
Steve Boots. At Steve Boots.
Yeah.
Steve Boots. I had a bully all through grade school. Picked on me constantly, a lot of homophobic, awful stuff. 20 years later, they reach out to me to apologize. Turns out they were trans, and when they were young, they were struggling with their sense of self and went through deep pain and trauma, which caused them to lash out. Trans people have always been there, whether you notice them or not. I think Steve Boots just booted Rob's terrible ideas.
So funny, so funny. Let's keep going.
No, you don't want to say anything else about this?
I have so many things to say, but then I'm like scrolling through all these pages, and there's so many.
I think the one thing I would say is like the repression of someone who...
For 20 years.
Yeah, someone who like realizes... I mean, Steve says through grade school, this person...
Yeah.
And then when they contact with them, they are clearly articulating, yeah, I was struggling.
Well, something interesting to me is anyone who's been in therapy or has taken some kind of psychology class, you learn about how trauma and lashing out and stuff like that is impacted by something greater a lot of the time. Mm-hmm. And in this case, this bully was dealing with their sense of self and didn't know how to feel, respond, or think about it and was lashing out. Is that okay? No, of course not. But it does speak to the fact that this individual was not able to have help and support to figure this stuff out, and so the only way to manage it was to lash out.
You know what fixes that immediately?
Help?
Well, yes.
Acceptance?
Exactly. The affirmation and like serious professional help.
Yes.
We've solved the bullying problem right there.
Yes.
It's funny, you know, I've taught a lot of conservative Christian academies, and they're always talking about bullying and how we're going to deal with bullying. And, you know, I think that they have a lot of great ideas and approaches to that. And then there are just some things that, like, they cannot touch. Right. And I think that this is definitely one of those things. And I think that Steve Boots brings that to the forefront of the conversation in a very, like, tangible way. So thank you, Steve Boots. Next one, Sizzle with 3 flame emojis. I love it.
Well,
I love it.
Yeah.
And the @ is McGirritable. Sizzle says, remember in the 90s and early 2000s when they said bisexuality was a social contagion, there you go, a fad, that it was causing lifelong harm to confused, vulnerable youth? Because I do, and yet we didn't go anywhere, and neither will our trans family. Keep crying about it. All right, Sizzle. That's
there it is. See, I don't
have anything to add to that.
This. Yeah, we already talked about that.
Okay, next one.
Pocky chinchilla.
It's not Pokey, it's Pocky.
Pocky, like a pocket chinchilla. Pocky chinchilla.
Pocky chinchilla.
I love that.
Pocky chinchilla says, I tried to come out at 17, but got so much pushback I went into the closet for 13 years. Once again, to consider the ages here, folks.
So not coming out till 30.
Mm-hmm. My friend, who also later transitioned, noticed I'd shaved my legs, but I was too embarrassed to talk about it. We tried to start a GSA, but the school kept moving the goalpost. We existed.
That's crazy.
That last line, we existed, that's like, was the best case scenario there.
Yeah. Oof. For anyone who doesn't know what a GSA is, essentially, basic understanding of it is it's a group that gets started at different schools to try to support queer individuals. Is the best way I can summarize it in one sentence.
Support group, yep.
Yeah, kind of a support group. There you go. Thank you.
I will say, before we move on, like, Pocky Chinchilla says, my friend noticed I'd shaved my legs. So there is a manifestation here, right?
Right.
Physical manifestation, like something that you could notice, but I was too embarrassed to talk about it.
Yeah.
Like that, it was in Pocky Chinchilla.
Yeah.
It's not, because like they even say I'm embarrassed by it, but I still have to do it.
Oh yeah, and
wow.
I honestly feel this specific post kind of deepened me, because as someone who was socially raised as a woman, there were definitely things that I hated and was embarrassed about and refused to talk about because they made me so uncomfortable with my gender. But I didn't have the words to express that. I just knew that I was embarrassed. And like, I just made it out to be, oh, I'm just shy. I just don't want to talk to people about this. I'm just really like private. But the more I learn, even today, about how people feel about certain subjects, even like puberty or, you know, whatever, liking people, boys, girls, others, individuals, whoever, the more I learn that no, I was definitely in a situation that a lot of people weren't in. I was very different and I felt very separated from individuals. And even as a kid, I knew that feeling, but I didn't know what it was.
And again, you went to a conservative Christian academy. There's no way you're getting helpful information to sort that out.
Exactly. Like I had no one to help me figure it out.
Nor were you getting professional help.
No.
Okay. Let's keep going. Margaret Killjoy at Magpie Killjoy responds to Rob saying, I tried to change my name to Kelly in 4th grade, again, 4th grade, but was already getting beaten up too badly. Again, violence. Come on. When I was in high school starting a GSA, the head of the GSA at the next school over was hospitalized for being gay. Our GSA had no out queer people in it.
That's crazy. Even something that's designed to be a support group can't have people be safe enough to come out. It's terrible.
Okay. And I just want to say that conservative Christians are perpetuating this intolerance and this violence.
Yes.
You do it. And you do it when you remain quiet about it. That's just being complicit to it.
And real quick, like...
Are you happy, conservatives? Are you proud of this?
Exactly. And... real quick, I am happy that not as many people today talk about getting beaten up physically in school for their identity, but they're still harassed emotionally, in a manipulative manner. It still happens. It doesn't matter if it's not as tangible, it's still there and it's still impacting these kids.
In one of our past episodes where we talked about the Trevor Project, I mean, it even manifests in political legislation,
right?
Which is a big issue.
Yeah.
That was bad. Okay. This next person is Kate.
Yeah.
Rainbow emoji, soccer emoji, purple heart emoji.
Love.
At Caitlin Ann. I graduated in 2004. In the last 5 years, 10 of my 300 classmates have come out as trans. So in the last 5 years. The social contagion of hate kept them living lives inauthentic to how they felt. Talking to all of them, they expressed that they wish they could have lived their truth earlier.
Right.
So, but Kate's lying, right? Kate's just making this up because they want attention.
Yeah, love how Rob and a lot of other conservative people are saying that being queer is a social contagion, but this person, Kate, nails it on the head when they say social contagion of hate. Hate is the social contagion that's hurting people.
Okay, yeah, that one's crazy. That's like devastating.
Yeah, and I could see someone being like, 10 out of 300, that's like no one. But that's still a decent amount of people, considering the concept and the argument is there's no trans kids.
But that's at least, right?
Right.
That's your
At
minimum.
least. Within 5 years. So there's, there's time.
Yes, indeed. All right, next one.
Oh, this is the last one.
Oh, this is the last one. Okay. So this is extremely pleasant male delivery. Something I don't know. It cuts off.
It's a male guy because the at is dumb male guy.
At dumb male guy. Oh,
that's kind of
pretty
sad.
self-deprecating.
Don't be mean to yourself.
But maybe he's dumb. I don't know. Let's see what he has to say.
So mean.
Let's see what he has to say, and then we'll judge. Dumb male guy says, my grandfather's Catholic school growing up tied his left hand behind his back, but I'm sure my 3 cousins who turned out left-handed are just doing it for social clout. Oh.
I like this because it ties
that.
it to a very realistic example
Yeah.
that you can't blame on theology or anything like that.
Yes.
But I could see this because even, in my generation growing up, I think I had maybe 2 or 3 people in my class that were left-handed, and they were constantly fighting, to be able to write the same way and to be able to sit somewhere where they weren't bumping elbows with their next door neighbor. And, this is just basic stuff, but this is coming from generations where people were not allowed to be left-handed.
Yeah.
Like this person's grandfather, his left hand was tied behind his back so that he could only write with his right hand. But, it's not something that could be prevented as the cousins genetically got the left-handedness.
My mom's left-handed, and she went through some of this stuff. I remember she was always talking about scissors, like having to use right-handed scissors in her left hand,
like
and just
pens and smudging and pencils.
Yeah, it's such a dumb notion that
It's really dumb.
someone who is left-handed has to change that.
Right. And it doesn't matter that there's only 3 to 5%, I think is the number. Please fact check me on that. I do not remember the number. It's been too long. But the number percentage-wise of people who are left-handed is pretty small from what I remember, but it doesn't matter because those kids still need help and adjustment to be able to progress and learn as individuals. And even though they need a little extra guidance, they still are, same valid kids, and you want them to get the same kind of education. So tying it back to being gay or queer, whatever, trans, non-binary, just because you're a little bit different than this other group of people, and even if you are in the minority, it doesn't mean you deserve any less respect, love, and care than the majority of individuals.
It's also funny because society is basically telling you are an inconvenience, so we would rather change you than actually...
Yes, that's what it is. You're inconvenient. I don't like it, so change.
Look, all the evidence is that we should not be treating anybody from the LGBTQ plus, IA plus community like they are less than.
Yeah.
Other than, well, my ancient book tells me that I need to. I really wish I wish I didn't have to. I wish I didn't have to.
They don't.
And I wish that I didn't have to look at facts right in the face and have to accept them because they are that facts. My book tells me I can't.
Well, what bothers me is when we were just talking, this came to my mind and was like, okay, as a society, our goal is to become better at being humans and being better to people and growing as a society. So it shouldn't matter if people did or didn't exist in the past. We should always be working towards being better now. And it bothers me so much that there has to be this much effort and time put into proving that this is not a new concept just to get to people to where we're like, okay, see, this is not a new thing. This is not random. This is a historical issue, just so that people can try to move forward and be better humans.
Yeah, and history always shows us that the people that are trying to restrain that, the authenticity of a human being, when it's not hurting somebody else, we should obviously
when it's not hurting someone else.
They are the villains.
Exactly.
They are on the wrong side of history. Real quick, here's your fact check. Are we using AI overviews on Google as legitimate?
No.
I don't know.
That's a great question.
But the AI overview says estimates of percentage of left-handed people in the world range from 8 to 18.
Okay, so it's a little higher than I remember.
It's kind of a swing. Wikipedia says 10% approximately are left-handed. Nature.com says roughly 10% prefer to use the left hand.
Okay. So about 10%, so a little bit more than I remember.
Yeah.
But still, that's the minority. Like 90% being right-handed is a lot more than 10%, you know?
Yeah, so thank you, dumb male guy, for pointing that out. I would say not a dumb take at all.
Yeah, you're not dumb.
So he's probably doing that a little tongue-in-cheek. And that's it. That's the end of the slides there. Again, Chris, you had mentioned that there are some comments here that continue to build onto these slides. I'm sorry, I just gotten back. I sent this to Chris in Instagram, and then also in our chat, there was the New York Times style article. Who was a rodent man?
It was, I don't understand. It's weird.
Check out Google rodent man, and y'all gotta follow that conversation. That was wacky. Okay, anything else you want to add on to this, Chris, before we get out?
Yes, there are.
Let's do it.
2 comments that I want to read really quick, if I can.
Tight.
That really stood out to me when I was reading through them. There were so many comments, so I'm sure there's so many more good ones. Feel free to read them.
And you should, yeah. Like I said, we'll link to this.
Good stories. Mm-hmm. But this first one is coming from Fantastic Mr. Fox. I love that. Says, trans man born in 1989 here. I got really good at climbing trees to avoid my bullies after they threw metal trash cans at me and nearly broke my arm. I eventually had to be taken out of school to learn at home because of how much I was struggling with the school environment. I was talked out of transitioning at 19 and remained miserable in the closet for another decade. We have definitely always been here, and it's people like this who kept us miserable and hidden for so long. But hey, if it's a quote-unquote social contagion, thank God I caught it because it saved my life. That last sentence, it saved my life.
Yeah.
Oh, like, I wish people understood how accepting yourself saves your life.
But Chris, the opposition would say that person is just wrong, and they've been led astray, and they're not really truly at peace.
But this person was in the closet for a decade after they had already tried to come out. So after they already tried to socially transition. So what people don't think about is socially transitioning, medically transitioning, and all of that takes a lot of time, thought, energy, and effort. It's not done in a moment or in a day. It takes a lot. So if you're going through with it, you're putting a lot of time and thought into whether or not you want to do it, how you want to do it, and what the consequences will be, positive or negative.
People don't understand that. I think a lot of conservatives are just like, you know how you are trans is because one day you just well up and say, I am trans. And that is the end of the conversation.
Like, even
it's not how it works.
Even for me, like, my name is different than my birth name, and even just changing that small tiny thing took years. and still people won't use it all the time. Like, it's ridiculous, and it's just like, easy, Chris, easy. But whatever.
Not so easy.
Not so easy.
Very difficult. Nobody can do it. In fact, it's practically impossible. Mission Impossible. The real one.
Dun, 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 dun. Anyway, last post. Covey 73. No, this is this person's username. I don't know how it's pronounced. But COVEY 7315. Covey? Okay, whatever. They said queer boomer here, so someone from a generation before millennials. Again, another great example. The guy who lost his partner to AIDS over 30 years ago. Just want to add that my stepdad, who would be 90, liked to wear dresses and hooked up with other men. My married nephew just came out as bisexual. I would say 30% of my former students are queer, bi, or trans. Point being, gender and sexuality have been fluid since the beginning of time. What's new is the courage, and hopefully accompanied by loving support, to come out. That's it.
And that's true.
And that's
like it's just
so true.
It's just objectively true. All the data bears that out. The only reason why you as a conservative or someone that doesn't know may not understand is because you aren't delving into the facts.
Right.
You just simply are. And just like literally anything else in life, if you were to become educated on it, then you would know. Otherwise,
Yes.
you're blind, ignorant to it, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. You don't know what you don't know.
Right.
But what we're saying is stop making ridiculous claims.
Yes, it is ridiculous to claim that things are new just because you as an individual are seeing it more than in the past.
Just because you're in a bubble and you don't understand things.
Right.
That is just like the epitome, I think, of
That's not how it works.
what a lot of Christianity is, conservative Christianity is right now when it comes to these conversations. We've never seen this before. It's like,
Yeah, actually you have.
you see it every day.
Yeah.
You just are
You're just blind to it.
blunt to understand the reality of it, and also your religion incentivizes you not to see it.
Yes. And in very, very practical terms, think of a colorblind person versus someone who can see all colors normally. So, and even considering the human brain can only see a small window of color. But anyway, colorblind individuals can't see certain colors, right? They look the same, they look gray. I have a coworker that's colorblind and, deals with that every day. But anyway, just because this person cannot see a specific color, whether that be red or green, the most common, or like blue, or any other color, doesn't mean that color doesn't exist. In their reality, maybe that color doesn't exist, but that doesn't take away from all the other individuals who can see it clearly.
And like everything else, 2,000 plus years ago, how could anybody possibly understand that?
Exactly. Like, that's the thing. As much as I understand why these conversations about things happening in the past have to happen, and talking through all of this to just give more validity to the LGBTQ plus community, unfortunately, it's so infuriating because time has passed, knowledge has increased, society has changed. Why are we so stuck to things that don't matter anymore? Or should never have mattered in the first place? I'm sick of it.
All right, me too. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot from
Yes,
this singular post, and
I really do appreciate Matt Bernstein's post. They
period.
are filled with a lot of information and facts, and very good resource for seeing things.
If you're on social media, follow Matt. Matt's got a podcast as well called A Bit Fruity that is amazing. It's so well researched. I cannot shout out his content more. The other thing I learned is that my handles suck online, so maybe I need to change them to
Have something more exciting.
JJ Dynamite or something like that. I don't know.
JJ Dynamite. I love that for you. That's hilarious.
Kaboom. All right, anything else you want to say, Chris, before we got to get out? We got like 20 more minutes before we got to get out of this special room, the library room.
I think this is enough for right now.
Time-wise, yes.
As always, there's always more to say, but for now, this is okay.
Well, we're actually going to talk more about this in our second season that we're planning.
Yes. As always, please check out other episodes if you want more specific information about a specific topic. That's part of the reason Tell Us Love's podcast exists, to have resources out there for people to listen to.
Okie doke. Should we end with a joke?
Do you have a joke?
Not really.